don't know. So we're talking about jet boats. I came across this Kyma K7. It was released down at the Miami Boat Show earlier in the year, and it's got me thinking about, hey, can it surf? Can you surf behind a jet boat? So I dove into it. I've actually had a chance to operate the boat, and I'm going to share what I found. First, they partnered with not a jet boat engine manufacturer, but they actually partnered with Indmar, an inboard boat engine manufacturer. So the Raptor, they've got the Raptor 440 and the Raptor 575 supercharged, both V8s, and this is the engine they've decided to put in a 23-foot boat. So the 23-foot on most other manufacturers in the jet boat world have to be twin engines. This is a single engine, higher horsepower, more torquey horsepower than our engine, I guess, that you're finding typically in the jet boat market. So a very proven power plant. They've matched that. They're the only ones to do this, is to match that big, beefy, torquey V8 with a big, huge, beefy jet drive. So this is the American turbine. I'm not sure what the model of it is. Jet drive. And this thing is massive. And this thing is durable. So I sold Yamaha jet boats for a number of years, sold a bunch of them. I've got videos on the channel. And this is about 50% larger in volume, and it's solid. So when you actually look at it, a couple of things. This is it on the actual boat. You'll notice there's no plastic. All of this is metal, stainless steel impeller. That baby is thick. That baby is stout. But in this right here, the bucket that is used to steer and to adjust the flow nozzle, that thing is thick. You pound on that, it's like you're pounding on a cast iron skillet. Everything's beefy, heavy duty, and what that allows them to do is they don't have to have the concern about sucking up the gravel and the sand, sucking up the weeds, the seaweed, the grass, that kind of stuff. It's just going to chew it up like a garbage disposal and spit it out. Now, you do have to be a little cautious of sand if you get really, really into the sand, like if you hit a sandbar, but it's going to chew everything else up. And it is, I can't tell you how impressed I was with how big it is and how strong it is. And they're the only ones to match those two up. Now, this is, can this boat surf? You can see it actually has a surf pipe. So that's what they're trying to do with it. And I'm going to show you some videos of the wave here in a little bit. Another thing they're doing that's interesting is they're marrying fiberglass and aluminum. So the hull is fiberglass, the deck is mostly fiberglass, but they're also using this billeted aluminum like you'll see in the swim platform. Now, the founder of the company, or one of the co-founders, has been in the boating industry for 30, 40 years. He's been at some of the major manufacturers. Most recently, he ran one of the largest boat manufacturers in the country and was over all of their lines, the redesigning. He was the inventor and has the patent. Or he might not have it. His company has the patent that he developed for a resin that's actually used in this boat, which is kind of cool. But the reason they've gone with the billeted aluminum in several components, including the swim platform here, is because it allows them to eliminate waste. So instead of fiberglass, when you make small parts in fiberglass, you have a lot of waste that you have to trim off and throw away. With the aluminum, all they do is they collect all of the shavings, remelt them, and boom, they've got just as good of aluminum as they started with, and there's zero waste. So they're doing that in all of these different parts and components, and it really makes the cost of building these boats come down over time, which I thought was really, really interesting. So like any jet drive is, hey, this thing has a big impeller turning, and you can suck up rope, you can suck up something that gets caught in there. So there is an easy access cleanup port, but I mean, look at how big that is. That's that little hatch through the swim platform. But you've got your nuts here that are attached, so they're not going to fall off if you have to do it in the water. But everything about the boat, not fancy, but solid and well built. So here's a look at the interior. What you would expect from a surf style boat: a lot of seating. You've got the filler cushion that you can fill in that gap and seat 3 or 4 across the front. They're buying the upholstery from a company that Nautique owns. So a similar upholstery to what Nautique is running in their boats. Good solid quality, nice stitching, and the cushions were not the thickest that I've ever seen, but they were a good mid-tier, upper mid-tier level quality of the upholstery, quality of the cushion in that upholstery. And as we look, you'll also notice the full-length piano hinge on this seat that lifts up. A lot of storage in the boat. A gas assist, nice and sturdy. And you can see, again, billeted aluminum here, billeted aluminum on the windshield. A lot of different areas where they're using not just the material they're comfortable with, because Ed, the founder and the designer of the boat, he had experience with aluminum, he had experience with fiberglass, and he's using each of those materials in the best area of the boat and combining them, which is very seldom done. And I think it was done very well. More hinges, nice solid hinges, very similar. This is the type of hinge that's on my father-in-law's Cobalt R5, good heavy duty. I love what they did here. I should have got a picture of it, but this is a little flip down, and actually your battery switch is there. So one, it's easy. You can get easy access to turn the boat on and off when you're done. But if you forget and you've got to get up under the cover, you can actually easily just from right here, you can flip up that cover and turn that switch off. Just a little thing. And I think it comes from being in the business a long time and being a long-time boater, that as he was designing this boat, these are ideas that have been percolating in his head. For our conversation, we talked 2 full days, or 2 different days, I guess. One day on the water, one day at their new manufacturing facility outside Knoxville. You could just tell that he's had all these ideas kind of floating around in his head for a while and put them into reality in this Kyma K7. So when we look at the helm, one thing that I noticed, and I told him when we were talking, is this boat, one of the things I liked about it is it wasn't fancy and over the top with gadgets. It was quality built, but simple. Something that you don't really find in a lot of especially the surf boats. You'll see they've got a nice screen, which we'll talk about a little bit more detail. They've got some cubbies up on both helms. They do have wireless chargers, a nice stereo system. You can see your stereo control here. They have the SeaKeeper Ride, which I'm going to talk about. Very interesting, the way they're using that in the boat. And I ran this boat, nice and comfortable. You've got a little armrest right here at the throttle. So as you're towing, you easily have throttle control and just a regular shifter like you would find in most surf boats. And all of this on the screen is incorporated into the engine, into the surf system, as you would expect. Now, this is what I was talking about. Remember that gauge right here? That is the SeaKeeper Ride. Now, you know SeaKeeper from their gyroscope that has really changed the industry in the center console market specifically, as well as beyond, giving a smoother, more comfortable ride. But what this is essentially automated trim tabs. So what happens is it serves 2 purposes on this boat. When Ed started designing the hull, he said, this is so great that I'm going to incorporate. You can see it's actually built into the hull. It was purpose built for this boat to have SeaKeeper Ride on it. But he was just thinking, hey, it's a jet boat. We don't have trim, so it's going to give us a more comfortable ride. What they actually discovered is that the SeaKeeper Ride system was the most efficient surf system that they could fit on this boat. They had others that they had access to and had negotiated rights to, but they said, you know what? This is actually giving us a better, cleaner wave than those other systems. And if you don't know that SeaKeeper Ride, I saw it down at a convention, and when I talked to the guy, he said it's making hundreds or thousands of readings of pitch and yaw and roll a second, and it's making hundreds of adjustments based on that information. And so every time the boat moves in rough chop, it's going to make that adjustment to make it ride more comfortably. In the manual setting, you can adjust it just like you can adjust any surf system and turn it on, and boom, now you're deployed and it cleans up and shapes your surf wave. It's really great. I'll show you a video of that wave. Very, very cool system, very impressive. I'll tell you, as I was cruising, I wanted to test it out. You know, wake boats, jet boats are notoriously rough riding because they don't have that trim ability, right? They've got a fixed propulsion system. So I told him, I'm like, I'm going to run this through some chop. And so I stirred the lake up. We were on Teleco up in Knoxville, and I stirred the lake up and I ran through. I bet they were 2.5, 3 footer, just big rollers. And I ran through with the SeaKeeper off. And when I hit it, it was bam, 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 like you would expect. Like you experience on other similar jet boats or wake boats. But I turned that SeaKeeper Ride system on, did the same thing, the same maneuver, ran through it at the same speed, and it was a night and day difference. It blew me away. The first time I'd ever run that SeaKeeper ride system, and it is amazing. And the fact that it can double as the surf system, I thought was pretty cool. They're tying everything into this simple screen. You can get to the surf system, the stereo, the engine diagnostics with just one touch. Very, very simple and very easy to use, which I think is critical. Sometimes with these electronics, you've got to go 2-3 menus deep to find what you want to do. And sometimes as you're driving the boat, you spend more time looking down at the screen than you do paying attention, or you just can't find something that you want to find to adjust on the boat. But another smart thing is the redundancy. So they've got that screen, which is great, and it makes everything real simple. But what happens if a fuse blows? What happens if something goes out on that screen and you're out on the water? Well, they've got a redundant system. This is right under the throttle. So you've got your horn, your blower, your bilge, your anchor navigation light, your tower up and down. But it's all right there. So you can be safe, you can be legal, and you can continue your day even if something does happen. Not found on every boat, which I think is crazy. Another thing that they developed, a lot of innovative ideas, like marrying different technologies and different concepts and putting them all in one boat. So the best of both worlds, the best of wake, the best of jet. One of the things that I don't know how they did it, but they call it a zero turn system. And what that means is, if you've ever run a jet boat, you know that when it's running, there's water flowing through that system, and it makes the boat move around. You can't just sit still when you're on a jet boat. Somehow they fixed that problem. I don't know what the technology is there. They call it what, zero turn pump or something like that. But essentially, with the boat running, you can just be sitting there still, which is awesome. If you're sitting at the gas pump, waiting for your trailer at the boat ramp in busy, congested areas, you can really just sit there and maneuver the boat like you normally would, and you don't have to continuously operate it and steer. The other thing that I loved was this tower. He came up with this articulating tower design. So essentially what happens is, it's a power tower, and when that tower goes down, instead of the top folding down with it, it actually articulates. So as the top goes down, the tower goes down, the top articulates up so that you still have good shade if you're going under a bridge or need to put it down for storage. But what we used it for, we were out there talking on a Friday afternoon. He put it down because the sun was shining. It was really hot. So he just dropped it down like 2 or 3 feet. And now it was still tall enough to sit in the seats very comfortably with airflow, but it gave us more shade. It blocked the sun, which I thought was great. Very, very smart design. Wakeboard racks, the slips in the canvas cover, everything that you would expect for a surf boat, but a lot of different things. You can see the billeted aluminum right here, give it some interesting looks. That aluminum right there on the hull to give it some accents that are very unique, very smart looking. And then the windshield. You know, the windshield's not your typical what you would find on a wake boat, but what I really liked about it is when you were running, it felt open. It felt like you were driving in a convertible, not like some of the wraparound windscreens that you see where you feel, you know, you just don't have that open air feel. But the other thing I liked when I was driving it is you could see right down to the water. So you could, if you're operating, you've got a rider in the water, a surfer in the water, you come around to pick them up, boom, you can talk to them. There's nothing obstructing your communication with them. So let's take a look at the actual surf wave. You can see it has a nice clean lip to it. It's well shaped. It's not the biggest surf wake you're going to see. 3,000 pounds of ballast in the boat, which fill up very quickly, and it produces a really, really solid surf wake. When you're wakeboarding, you know, you make your adjustments, you get your line length right, and again, you can see a nice clean lip. They've limited the whitewater because of the way that they're positioning the pump a little bit lower in the water, so it gets below that wake, and it's not giving you all that whitewater that you find on other jet boats, okay? Now, same thing when you're tubing, because you can see that little bit of spray, but it's limited. It's not coming way back and splashing in the rider's face when you're tubing, which is something they purposely did. They wanted to incorporate all water sports with the advantages of the jet drive. And they wanted to give you some higher speed options. So with the inboard, you know, we know those towboats, the surf boats, the wake boats, they might run 38 to 40, maybe 42 if it's a really light load. But they've actually built this one that runs 46, 47 miles an hour with that Raptor engine on the upgraded engine. So it's got that extra speed. If you want that, it's a great option. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I'm a big fan of dealer support after the sale. So what they've done is they've actually decided to sell direct to consumer so that they can keep that price point down. But what they did to ensure that they can still service the customer is, one, they do an on-site delivery if you choose to do that, or you can come to Knoxville and pick up the boat, save a little bit of money, but they'll still deliver the boat on the water and walk through everything. But they also have a diagnostic app that is going to monitor the boat, one for you, but two for them remotely. So they can actually just pull up your whole identification number, go into your boat remote from Knoxville, and they can look at everything that's going on with the boat. You can see the GPS, where the boat is, if you want to have access to that, and they can start troubleshooting things. They also have a remote team that will come out to you if there's any warranty items that need to be taken care of. It's one of the reasons they chose the Knoxville area, is because they're within 8 hours of 80% of the boating population, is what he said. And something that I think is so important when you're looking at a boat is to have that service mentality. And I was really glad that Ed had a good answer when I asked that question. So I've said a lot of great things about the boat. I really did like it, but it's also not for everybody. Like I said, it's in that upper mid-tier, lower premium level. And if you're looking for the best surf wave, well, that Kyma probably isn't for you. There's better surf waves out there if that's 90% of what you're doing. On the other hand, if you're looking for the cheapest jet boat possible, there's other options there as well. If you're looking for a boat that's got all the gadgets and gizmos, the lighted cup holders, all of the head compartment, I mean, it's a 23-foot boat. They could have put a head in there, but are you really going to use it? And so they tried to distill it down to the essentials and still build it in a quality manner. So again, if you're looking for the most expensive boat, hey, that Paragon starting at $435,000, that's the way that you want to look if you're looking for that type of thing. Or the cheapest boat. Hey, it's not the cheapest boat on the market. I think he said that that the boat's $150 with the trailer, with the base motor. I think $175 for that upgraded engine. And it's in that nice sweet spot of a good quality boat that's going to do everything you want it to do, but it's not the cheapest either. So who is it for? I think there's some really key areas where this boat could be a great fit for somebody. One, if they want to do all-around water sports, if they're all-around water sports lover, it's a great fit. If you want to surf and you want that comfortable ride and chop, because of that ride system, it's more comfortable than any wake boat, than any jet boat that I've run in that rough chop. And so if that's, hey, we want to surf, we like the jet boat idea, but we also are going to be out on a Saturday afternoon cruising to a restaurant, or just it's a ways to our surf spot, and we don't want to get beat up, I think it's a great fit there. Also, with the jet drive, the shallow water access, especially with that big beefy pump where you don't have to worry about, hey, if we have weeds or grasses in our body of water, hey, it's going to spit through that like a garbage disposal, and you don't have to worry about it too much. But also, if you have to go through some shallow areas to get to where you're going to surf or get to where you're going to go, you don't have to worry about damaging that expensive prop and prop shaft and damage the cutlass bearing. And I mean, worst case is, you knock it out, now you got a hole in the boat. That's like way worse. But if you deal with that shallow water, stumps and rocks, this is a really great alternative to still be able to surf and to deal with that. And if you have grass and weeds, another area where I think it really, really does excel. So the folks up in Minnesota, some of the folks at the coast that have some grassy, seaweedy areas, a lot of vegetation. If you want or you need a jet boat for whatever reason, maybe because of the grasses, and you want to surf. I showed you the surf wave of it actually being surfed, and it does a great job. Now, if you're a professional level, yeah, you probably want to go with a straight wake boat. But if you're a beginner to an intermediate and you're just out there to have some fun, it definitely will do the trick. You don't want a forward-facing drive with the probability of damaging that forward-facing propeller. Kind of like an inboard is if you get into the rocks, a stump, or something floating down the waterway. I heard one guy said he had to replace 3 props and the drive shaft because it bent the drive shaft each time, because you can't tilt that thing up out of the water like you can a stern drive. There's no play. It's just leading the way. There's no skeg to maybe deflect something. It's right out there, and it's something that it happens with those reverse drives. And if you want a quality surf boat, but you're on a budget like everybody is, and you want to be under that 200,000 mark. I mentioned 150, 175. Those prices I think are accurate, but they may be subject to change. Another thing I really thought was cool is the way they're offering this boat, because they're going direct to consumer. They're taking the approach of, hey, we want to make sure it's the right boat for you. It's a new style, jet boat matched with that big beefy V8, the torquey engine. So what they're doing is they've got a couple options where, one, they'll bring the boat to you. So they call it an experience. For $2,000, they'll bring the boat to you, let you run it for a weekend or 2 days, wherever body of water. So you can see, hey, let's run it through the grass. Let's go through this shallow cut that we've got to get to that's got a rocky bottom to make sure we're not going to suck up a rock. And if we do, I'm happy with how beefy it is and it's not going to cause damage. I want to surf it. I want to experience it. I want to run it myself, make sure it's going to fit my style. And then they'll apply that money back to the purchase price. So it's really just a free test drive, or a great experience if you decide not to go forward. Or you can come down to Knoxville and they'll put you up, and I think they have 2 options, either on the water, in like a resort on the water, or a more premium kind of vacation style getaway. I'm not sure if that's on the water or not. But for 2 days, run the boat on Lake Tellico, a beautiful lake, by the way. My in-laws have a place there. That's why I was there and had the opportunity to run the boat. A beautiful lake, very pretty, very clean water. And you can go and you can run the boat there. Again, I think it's 2,000. That number may adjust, I'm not sure. But again, that applies to the boat if you move forward and make the order. And I think it's a really, when he told me that, I was like, that's perfect. Like, that's the way things should be done in the industry. And I really appreciated the honest and upfront, and just we want this to be the right boat. If we want somebody to buy it, we want to make sure that they love it. We've got the app to support them. We've got our remote travel if we need to support them in person on the vessels, and just the way they've kept all of the fancy extras out, just stuck with the real key areas. You can check them out at KymaBoats.com. It's KYMA boats.com. Check it out there. I think you can even book the experience right from the site if you want to do that. And check them out if it sits kind of in that spot where, hey, this could be a perfect option for you. I wanted to share the boat with you. I appreciate you watching. Give it a thumbs up if you found this valuable. If you are in shopping mode, make sure you grab your Boat Buyer's Toolkit. 40 pages, checklist, questions to ask. Take this on the Kyma with you, and if you do that experience and say, hey, does it do all the things that we need to do? Super valuable. There's tens and tens of thousands of people that have this at this point, and it certainly is valuable from their feedback. Remember, life truly is better on a boat.